Oh boy. Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining today. I think we're just going to give everyone another 30 seconds to jump in, and then we can start the session. So just bear with us one moment while we wait for some people to join. Well, I think people are starting to come in, so I think we'll make a start because I'm conscious we've only got half an hour. So welcome everybody, thanks for joining today, and sort of taking some time out of the diary to join us. So you've got myself and my colleague Kev today to take you through what does immutable storage look like in the public sector. Today's session is hopefully a very succinct 30-minute session to understand really just a semi-informal but really an honest view of the world of immutable storage, the hype, the realities, the costs, the considerations, and perhaps alternatives as well. So hopefully to make that happen, apologies, let's click the next screen. You've got myself, James Dennis, so I'm the head of sales at Power On Platforms, ultimately responsible for our customer engagement models, go-to-market strategies and offerings. So really here to hopefully lend that kind of customer profile and lens and conversation side of things. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague Kev, who I'll let him introduce himself.
Morning everyone, name's Kevin Green. As it says, I'm the veteran in the group. I've been around for 30-something years in storage and backup. So quite a lot of experience, but a lot of hands-on, real life. My main job is design, implementation, troubleshooting and guidance, really. So welcome, and I'll let you go back, James.
Awesome, thanks, Kev. So we'd like to try and keep these interactive if we can. So if there are any questions, do fire them in the chat. We'll try and answer them as we go. There will be hopefully some time at the end for a bit of a Q&A as well, live as well. If not, we will answer all of those in the follow-up emails and bits and pieces. So if you've got anything that pops into your head, just drop it in the chat and we'll make sure we'll capture it in some shape or format. To kind of have a quick look at today's agenda, like I said, it's really to understand the reality of immutable storage. What is it, what it isn't, the hype, the risks, the opportunities, the reality, commercials, time, effort, all that kind of good stuff, to really hopefully give you an honest view of what that world looks like. And obviously that's really important for our public sector customers with regards to efforts, costs, times, all that kind of good stuff. So that's the kind of aim of today. I am really pleased to say actually there are a lot of new faces on today's call, people who don't know Power On. So for those of you who are new to us, welcome, thanks for joining, great to kind of virtually meet you all. We'll obviously get to know you all a little bit better as the time goes on, but as a bit of a quick run through, for those of you who are new, we are a kind of IT management and security specialist. We offer a range of managed services, flexible support contracts, and kind of tactical and strategic professional services. That covers a range of kind of work streams or practices from cybersecurity, ransomware, backup, end-user compute, desktop infrastructure, identity and access, as some headlines. But really kind of trying to deliver that expert guidance, both tactically in the moment, but as long-term strategic partnerships as well. We've kind of got all the usual accreditations in both vendors and industry. We're on the kind of frameworks to help that procurement process a little bit easier, but more importantly, Power On was really born out of the public sector with our leadership team from both a business and a technical component. So what that means is over the last 10 years as Power On's evolved, we've hopefully got a really strong handle on both that technical, business and commercial lens to help our NHS, local gov, central gov, housing customers kind of adopt technologies, fast track technologies and bits and pieces. So hopefully we've got kind of a wealth of experience across those lenses to help you guys, and really here to kind of drill down into that immutable piece today. So to make that happen, I'll hand over to Kev to take us through the good stuff.
Okay, just request control.
All yours.
Right, thanks for that, James. So basically what we're going to do is talk about immutable storage from a backup point of view, a ransomware recovery point of view. The biggest thing I've seen in the last, I would actually say 6 years, is ransomware has really come to the forefront of the IT issues. It's not just about ransomware, it's about lots of other things, like literally making a mistake, something's got deleted, something's happened. Immutability isn't just about ransomware. It's basically making sure that your data is recoverable no matter what happens in a way. Okay, if something disastrous happens, like we lose the data center from a fire where it's hosted, that's a slightly different story. But in the last 30 years, things haven't changed too much from where I'm sitting. It's all about data retention, data recoverability. It's become more important these days because of the way we've moved into things like more online systems, digital workforce. That's made a big difference. I'm the one in the company, like I said earlier, I'm the veteran. So I keep getting joked that they're going to put me on Office 365 training, all this kind of stuff that I'm still learning. But my pure background is data recovery, disaster recovery. So when it comes back to the point that it's got through the perimeter, you've had a kind of a encryption event or something, the whole point of where I fit into the actual place within Power is ensuring that that data is recoverable from a backup or another method. Biggest issue with ransomware is the good old cryptocurrency. We all know about it, Bitcoin. What a shame it's dropped like a stone. That might make it a little bit better for us, but at the end of the day, it makes ransomware easily to pay for with no traceability. When I started looking at the bottom tab on this screen, I had a slight smile on my face, but also quite a worrying one that it's just the way the world's going. Ransomware as a service. Crikey, we've got backup as a service, DR as a service, software as a service, infrastructure as a service. But we actually have a service now built on the backup of criminals trying to encrypt your environment without even paying anything up front for the access to that ransomware, and then getting a percentage back if it gets hit and you pay the ransom. The mind boggles the world we live in today, but it is what it is. It's there, and we need to make sure that we protect the corporate data and we can get it back. So immutable storage, what is it? At the end of the day, simply immutable backups or storage is things that cannot be changed or deleted. Obviously, the opposite to that is mutable. So a standard file that's not in an immutable location can be changed, can be infected, can be encrypted. So it's a bit of a worry. So even if you've got a backup solution that's been implemented for your primary backup location, it might be secure, it might have lockdown GPOs, built-in security, antivirus, it can still be encrypted, affected, or deleted. Immutable backups cannot. So it's safe from ransomware infections and user issues. We've all done it. Well, I'll put my hands up and admit to it. I have actually pressed delete on something in my environment and thought, oh, I didn't want to do that. Now, fine, I could get it back from the actual backups, but what if the backups had been encrypted or affected? Well, I'd have lost it because I only had that one copy. So there's a story there to be told in the next few slides. But the whole point about immutable storage is, doesn't matter what happened, ransomware cannot affect the actual storage of the backups, those snapshots. So it's also safe from everything else. I think in the last year, I've implemented 60 immutable solutions on about 4 different backup technologies. And the nice thing is we specialize in immutable storage that is not locked to a vendor. So it works with any backup environment. Yes, we specialize within the ArcServe arena. That's what my last 10 years of speciality is. But at the same time, the immutable platform, I've also implemented it in other technologies, backup, Veeam, and so on. At the end of the day, it's a target that can work with any backup software. That's the big difference between what we do and what a lot of people do out there, that they lock into a certain technology. So principles of approach. Who hasn't heard of this? Crikey, this is something now. This is almost like you have to go shopping every week for food. Well, that's exactly what this is. Everybody knows about it. 32110. It started off years ago as 321. So the key principle here is 3 types of backup, 1 primary and 2 replica copies. The second one is we need to store them on 2 different devices. Normally the primary is held on a dedicated device on premise, close to the actual primary data, what we need to back up for high speed. The second copy can be moved to an off-site replica on another local device through secure port replication, or it can go to a NAS, or it can go to tape, or it can even go to the cloud. And obviously we need one officially air-gapped. Now air-gap could be in the cloud, it could be on tape, but more importantly, this is where the 1.1 comes in. The second one, as you can see on the screen now, is about immutable, offline, ransomware protected environment. Now, immutability has not been, it's not something that's just happened in the last 2 years. In fact, The first version of immutability, if I remember right, was 1835. And no, I'm not that old, even though I've been told by some of the guys I'm getting that way. Daft as it sounds, immutability is something, like you said, that can't be changed. So if you look back through history, there is a technical article that actually states the first of it was about 1830. But now it's becoming mainstream and it's easy to deploy. So that final copy that we rely on if we get encrypted, so we get attacked on premise, our primary backups, if we get attacked, I've seen this now 6 times in the last 12 months where people have been attacked and they've gone for the backup solution. The hackers have actually looked around the environment, tried to find the backup software. The first thing they'll do is attack that. And if they can do anything to that, only then will they start attacking the primary environment, because they know that once you detect the primary hack, what are you going to do? You're going to go to your backups. We all do. But if your backups have then been compromised because maybe they've not been locked down correctly or deployed for whatever reason, it's an issue. So that immutability gives you that last line of defense. Now, the 0, from our point of view, is critical. The one thing I've found when I've done a lot of the ransomware recovery jobs with people getting their data back, they implemented it great. They've managed it very well, but they've never done any really testing. I know what it's like in IT. I've done most of your jobs. You just don't get the time. We're all bogged down with work and projects, but it is key to actually test those backups. I'm not going to teach you how to suck eggs here. You guys know that. It's what you do day in, day out. But if we don't know those backups have got a high integrity and we cannot recover from them, then we might as well just call it a day. Immutability gives us that option of mounting a snapshot from a point in time into a recovery environment and testing them, validating that data. So it's really important to understand that side of the technology. Business justification. Where does it all come in? At the end of the day, it's a balancing act. Money versus reward. So tape, nothing wrong with tape. You're talking to a Luddite. I love tape. LTO 12 has been ratified. LTO 9 is out now. Problem is, as we know with tape, it isn't as cost effective as people think. A tape drive with 50 slots and 2 LTO 9s and a load of tapes is into the 30,000 plus bracket. It's not cheap. Problem with tape is the speed, and I'm not talking about a file level recovery or a VHD or a VMDK recovery where you're recovering a single server. I'm talking about you've protected your backup repository, which contains all of your backups. To get those backups back, you have to restore the whole repository. That's going to take time to do that, and then also time to do the individual restores. I've got a WebEx this afternoon to look at a customer who somehow, I've looked at their backup environment and their tape offload to tape is taken like 8-9 days, and they can't work out why. When I looked at the size of it, it was 175 terabytes offloading to tape and still growing. Now to get that back, and okay, it's handy as a long-term recovery point, but not as a high speed, things have happened and I need it back now. That's where it changes. Immutable storage, the speed. It's almost, I'm not going to say instantaneous, because I have to type in 5 commands, attach it to a recovery VM, and I can start doing recovery. So 25 minutes, and I can start testing those recovery points, any one of them that's held within that repository. So we're not talking about I have to go back each snapshot to a different point. When I mount a snapshot, it contains all the recovery points or backups within that point in time. So immutability allows me to do that at high speed. Resilience, yeah, we're talking multiple striping, we're talking multiple cluster nodes if necessary, we're talking high level of resilience. And obviously it would always be predominantly in an offsite location. Multiple copies. I don't have to explain this any further. 32111. We get as many as we can. I've even had some customers come back to me and go, right, we've done the 3211. I've now found this, and I found this piece of hardware. I want to put them into separate locations again, and I want extra replica copies. So I think they've got more like 5.3. It's crazy. But at the end of the day, it's what you feel comfortable with. There is no right and wrong way. I found it over the years, you might be able to have a primary backup, but your secondary copy might be on Immutable. Your secondary copy might be on tape. The key thing, there is a secondary copy, and it is predominantly immutable. So it could be an air gap copy in the cloud. If it is in the cloud and it's called Immutable, you need to verify what technology it's being used. Is it write block? Is it a write lock on there? Is it chain block? You need to know what it is. Can it be affected? Blockchain has got different algorithms, different technologies that actually do different things. This is why we specialize more in the actual appliance that sits either on your premise or in a secure data center, but it's a physical piece of appliance that was built from the ground up. I'll go into that in a few seconds. And security, one thing we all forget, or I know the security side of this environment needs to be considered just like any part of your environment. So your live servers, your live virtual infrastructure, your perimeter, there needs to be security still protecting these backups. The backup solutions we supply today and we implement have all got ransomware protection on the backup environment. They're not in the domain. There's no group policies allowed. They're secure accounts, local. We implement even a high level of security due to our background within the security marketplace. So we try and secure the actual primary backup as much as possible. But you can't rely on that because it can still be compromised. Again, immutability. I think you're getting the gist of this now, that it's immutability. So business justification, speed and resilience comes into 5 things. When we're talking to customers, or especially around about severity and priority, some people will say, well, I've got 80 terabytes worth of backups and I can't afford to put them all onto Immutable. Well, okay, break them down, tier them, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. Tier 1 is going to be the severity and the priority I need back. And that's based also on recovery time objective. RTO now has been around for quite a while. It came out, whatever, 10 years ago. First time I saw it, didn't have a clue what it was. Basically, it's so how fast do I need to get my backups back? There's no point saying, well, I can put them on tape, but they take 3 days to recover if my RTO is 1 hour. This is the difference in technology. All we're using is different technology to hit that RTO. The recovery point objective is going to be how much data can we lose. So modern backup technology now will back up down to every 15 minutes for like a tier 1, every hour for, let's say, a tier 2, which could be a file server. Your other solutions or environments like tier 3 and 4 might not need backing up so much, and also might not need to be put on the Immutable if it's a storage constraint versus cost. The recovery protection is going to be down to then how we actually recover. It's not just file and folder recovery. From that Immutable platform, we might need to boot a backup point without even doing a restore. So literally we can boot a virtual machine from a virtual machine backup or even a physical machine backup directly from the Immutable platform, which is ideal because before you do that actual restore, how do you know that it's valid? So we need to attach the tools. We need to verify that there's no malicious activity in there, and then we can sign it off for recovery. The resilience comes down to obviously what you implement. How many versions of it are there and where do you actually need them? This, like I said, immutability comes in either high performance, but don't think for a minute we're talking high cost. You'll find the difference between going for a high-end tape solution versus a disk-based high-speed recovery with continuous data protection is actually a lot closer than you think. It shocked me. I'm not sales. When I first started looking at it and then pricing things up over the years, I was surprised at how cost effective it is, but also gives you the ability to do that high speed recovery. Okay, mentioned this a little bit. What type of immutability do we have? Let's start at the left-hand side of the screen, tape. My old friend, been around a long time, still love it. I still think it's got a very valid point for long-term storage. So if your Immutable platform is, let's say, for a month's worth of continuous data protection, in that I mean it's snapshotting every 90 seconds for an hour, every hour for a day, every month, every day then for that month. Yes, you can go further if you want, but it depends on how much storage you've got. Most of the Immutable storage platforms can be growing up to a petabyte with non-disruptive expansion. But let's stay with tape. That is still cost effective if I say I needed to do an offload from either the Immutable copy or the live copy on a monthly, quarterly, every 6 months or yearly copy to tape. It can still be cost effective. But as we know, it's cumbersome to manage. It requires physical transport, especially if you need to offsite everything, and it's got a slow RTO. Inexpensive, I'll sort of agree with that to a point, but since we've gone to LTO 9 I've noticed that the cost of tapes, the cost of the hardware is considerably higher. Cloud, well, we all love cloud, but what is cloud? As we know, it's a bunch of compute resources sat in a data center somewhere in front of a name, Azure, AWS. No matter what it is, it's compute resources. So yes, it's easy to access. Depends on the network and the bandwidth you've got, your upload speed and your download. Whenever I do a lot of work with customers, the first thing I ask is, what is your upload speed? Because if I've got to move 100 terabytes to the cloud, that's going to take some time. Yes, there's no physical footprint. I do believe, though, the disadvantages are costs, especially over time. Those costs rise to an amount that actually sometimes makes the cloud actually not viable. But it's also very, very slow for whole site recovery, unless I'm talking about backup as a service here. So we've got a replica in the cloud. If you do site recovery and you want to activate DR as a service, then that cost goes up exponentially. It's quite expensive. But also, if you need to recover from that cloud, one, ensure you've tested it, because there's different methods for getting that data back. You might have to reverse replicate first, which could take days. Then once the data's landed, you could start doing recovery. Hard drives, on-site, on-premise. We're talking here about immutability, the appliances. So they are the fastest recovery time objective. You might not have to recover from the immutable appliance because your primary backups are still valid and you've proven that they're actually consistent. But it's still the fastest recovery method. Depending also on the type of hardware the actual immutable platform is built on. If it's built on high density of SAS drives, it's going to be medium type speed. If it's built on SSDs, it's going to be even quicker. So that RTO is really important to understand. Also, as I mentioned before, when we talk about recovery points, we're also talking about backups. Different technology uses different terminology for saying what is a backup. So a recovery point is a backup. It could be an incremental, it doesn't matter. But at least with this technology, we can mount any one of those incremental points in seconds, and you can start validating that the actual data is okay. You've then got backup software. It's agnostic. That's the key focus thing. The amount of stuff I look at where you've been given blueprints how to build a DIY immutable platform based on Linux with certain features, it's DIY. Do you really want to actually rely on that? You need something that's built from the ground up, that's built from the hardware, the software, the management, the security and the support is built from the ground up to be the best. Okay, it can be costly. As I said, not as bad as you think. So that's worth investigating. And I'll give you an idea on the next few slides. Okay, one thing that has come about in the last year, I'm a bit concerned because I'm a bit of a control freak, but when I've implemented these immutable systems, the one thing is there's a logon account and there's a password. You turn on MFA like you should, and you get basically access to the MFA. There's a new principle coming out called 4 Eyes. So literally one person should have maybe the logon account with the password, but somebody else should actually have the MFA control. It basically gives you that extra layer of control. We're not on about from the front end, it's completely secure from hackers and so on. This is just from allowing the back end processes to have a bit more security, but also a bit more auditability. So that's where the 4 Eyes principles coming in. And a lot of vendors now are starting to implement that or at least recommend it. Bit awkward if you're the only person in the company, but not usually the case. Does it make sense for you? Well, to be honest, yes. You've got 3 choices. Pay the ransom, which, yes, we all know happens and people do pay it. I wouldn't because my data is not that important. Plus it's backed up and I've got an immutable copy. You can remove the malware. One thing I would say, if nobody's aware of it, go to the No More Ransom Project website. It's brilliant. It can actually give you certain encryption keys if you've already been encrypted. It can help you with the sheriff to actually go through how to get around it. It's a brilliant website and it's all about stopping the need to pay the ransom. The more we pay the ransom, the more they know, one, it's worked and it's actually got through and it's attacked. But more importantly, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees at all that you're going to get the key back or anything else. And also it could happen again in 2 months' time because you weren't allowed to do your due diligence before you did the restore because the business is key and needs it back. And we're all down the same rabbit hole again. The only way to do it is to wipe and restore. And that's probably 60% of the time I've been involved with things. We've used our technology to assist the customer doing the fastest restores possible. There's different ways of doing restores for different reasons. But wipe and restore is only the guaranteed way. How much does it cost to recover the data? I've simplified this as much as I can. These figures are usable. That's without deduplication and compression, which can be 10 plus. So these are usable. So that could be half a petabyte, that could be more, and so on. But this is what we're sort of talking, £26 a day. So we're not talking end of the world. In fact, realistically, the last time I got in the car and drove on the motorway and got a coffee, I'd struggled to actually buy enough coffees for the 5 people in the car for that. Things change, but the cost of immutability isn't as bad as you think. But more importantly, it seriously does give you that last line of defense that even your core backup solution cannot give you, even if you've locked it down to the best ability you think you have. So you can get more information from the guys and the team, basically what the costings could be if you want to have that conversation with them. I'm not going to go into the pricing point any further. So, right, okay. We can demo and design and deploy an immutable solution in days. I'm actually being quite lazy there if I say days. If you get an immutable device and we need to set it up and get it integrated and show you how to recover from it, you're talking less than a day. And that's actually do a proper setup. That's not literally set it up, give you a quick whiz and walk away. That literally is how easy it is to configure. And that can either be, like I said, ArcServe, Veeam, whatever backup solution you're using. The nice thing is we don't lock you into vendor. So if you move vendor, your immutable stays the same. But also you can use this technology to create a share through AD. And guess what? You could put a file share on there, which becomes immutable. So you're doing that protection straight away. So I think I've got one more slide before I hand you back. Right, what's next in the diary? I haven't seen any questions, but exactly, please feel free. On the 19th of September, there's going to be 2 sessions, 10 AM and 2 PM. We're basically going to offer out to anybody who's joined this, we've got other people who are interested, we're going to do a live workshop. So I'm going to basically have 6 to 7 servers, my immutable server, my live backup servers, and we're going to create an advanced backup solution from the start. I'm not going to sit and let you watch install the software. That's like watching paint dry, but it'll all be set up. We'll build data repositories, we'll back up some servers, we'll replicate them to an off-site secure location. We'll recover from there. We'll do the immutable backups and recovery. We'll implement it to the cloud. We'll send a copy to the cloud and we'll recover from the cloud. But let's not forget our friend tape. We'll also show the tape integration as well. So the whole point of this is to basically show you how it is easy. Obviously, there's a saying that Phil Mercer always says, who's the CEO of the company, it's easy when you know how. True. But also when you see how easy things have got over the years, we're not talking where that backup person years ago was sat there for, well, 8 hours a day. I was there 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, doing nothing but backups and tape verification. That is not the sexiest job on the planet. Now it's got the opposite. Data protection, data recovery, it's actually got interesting. It's like when virtualization first came about, we all wanted to be part of it. It's amazing how many people want to be part of data protection, recovery, disaster recovery, immutability, because it's got interesting. I'm just glad I've got a few more years left in the industry. So that workshop's going to be open to you guys. You'll join a WebEx and we'll go through the whole installation. You'll see how it's done step by step together as a group. So, right, I'll hand you back, James.
Thanks, Kev. That was great. So with that actually brings us to the end of the kind of formal session, and we are actually oddly just on time, which is fantastic for us for a half-an-hour session, because we do like to talk. But as Kev's alluded to, hopefully that kind of just sheds a really quick fire light on some of the realities of, the effort, the time, the cost, and potentially even alternatives. Immutable is fantastic. There's a lot of hype that might not be right. There's different layers and scales you can go to. So we really want to always kind of give that honest view of it. If there are any kind of immediate questions, do fire them in the chat now. We can hang on for a few minutes and answer them. But if not, chuck them on an email, chuck them in the chat, visit the website, and we'll pick them up and respond on email. But really just wanted to say, if there aren't any questions, you know, for those of you who don't know us, there's some contact details on screen. You can find myself and Kev on LinkedIn, bits and pieces if you need us, or Teams. But really, like I said, we have the session coming up on the 19th, AM and PM. You know, we'll share details of that out in the chat. So I think realistically we'll send details on the follow-up, but if you, your colleagues, anyone else wants to get on that, let us know. We'll add you to the list and get you on that session. As again, the speed to kind of quote, design and actually deploy this stuff is scary quick. So if you do want a tailored quote, again, just let us know and we can get you pricing within a day or two, so you can actually get a real world example of what this might look like. And again, I appreciate there's a lot of new faces on today's call, so if you want a kind of one-to-one session with me and Kev to understand Power On, understand Immutable for you and your business a little bit more on a kind of personal level, half an hour, 2 hours, just let us know and we can kind of go into that side of the fence as well. I think some links may be shared in the chat, but I don't think there's any immediate questions at the moment. So what we'll do is we'll consolidate anything that does come through, fire it on follow-up today, but just want to thank everybody for their time today. Thank you, Kev. And yeah, we'll get all the recordings and bits out to everyone as soon as possible. But if there's nothing else, we can call it a day.
Thanks very much, everyone. Take care.
So thanks all.